Hey gang, Stephen Marshall, KY landlordlaw.com. Wanted to give you another update now that we're into April and we've got a better hold on what happened with April rent and we kind of know where things stand with evictions. According to the numbers that I'm seeing, this is coming from the National Multifamily Housing Center. Looks like just under 70% of tenants paid their rent for the month of April. That is about a 12 or 13% decrease from March and about the same from April of 2019. So across the country, looks like numbers are down about 12 and 13% as far as the number of people who paid their rent for April. Now, what those numbers don't tell us is the amount or what portion of the rent those tenants paid. It just tracks people that paid. It does not track amount. So we don't know of that 70%, or actually 69%, we don't know if they paid in full or paid in part. But that still is largely good news, and it tracks what I'm hearing when I talk to you all. I'm hearing that by and large, tenants are still paying their rent, and that is really good news for everyone, for the tenants, for the landlords, for the lenders, for our economy, for everyone. But that being said, I am hearing from some of you all that tenants have simply broken off communication and are refusing to pay their rent, leading lots of people to ask me, what do I do now? And so just as a bit of background, here's where things stand. The governor suspended all evictions throughout the state until he lifts the state of emergency, with one exception that we'll talk about in just a second. And the courts are closed until May the 1st for all non-emergency proceedings, including evictions. And they are not accepting any eviction filings until June the 1st at the earliest. The only exception being that if a tenant is engaged in dangerous criminal activity or is a serious threat to public health or safety, you may request a waiver to proceed with an eviction from the governor's office. And the good news is I have seen one of these eviction waivers be granted and the landlord being allowed to go forth with an eviction right now against a tenant who is engaged in dangerous criminal activity. So that is a viable option, but I will remind you that's only for emergency situations. And that option will go away if it's being misused by landlords. So that's leading to the question, when these tenants are not paying the rent and they're not communicating, what do? My advice is, broadly, you want to do whatever you believe will elicit some payment from the tenant. Okay, June 1st is a long way away still. Okay, and that's the earliest that evictions can be filed, which means court dates are going to be several weeks after that. So we don't need to be primarily concerned right now with preserving our ability, our legal ability to evict the tenant for non-payment of rent. We need to be concerned about getting money in our pocket. And so the question that I'm getting is, should I give a notice to pay or vacate? Okay. My suggestion right now is that you only give that kind of notice if you think it will prompt a tenant to pay you something. Okay? Even if you decide to give that notice right now, it's my suggestion that you give another notice to pay or vacate in May, even if the tenant hasn't paid anything. Okay? So even if you give a notice to pay or vacate in April, the tenant doesn't pay or vacate, and May comes around, the tenant still hasn't paid anything, still in the unit, go ahead and give another notice to pay or vacate. And the reason that I suggest that is because some court clerks have the idea that a notice to pay or vacate is only valid for 30 days. Okay, now I don't think that idea has any basis in the law. Okay, and the judges that I've seen have been pretty good about agreeing with that idea, that there's no legal basis for that. But it's wisest to just take that issue off the table and go ahead in the month of May and issue another notice to pay or vacate. Okay, that way you don't have to worry about a clerk or a judge who looks at your notice and says, well, this was given, in mid-April and it's now mid-June, I think this notice is invalid. So take that issue off the table by issuing another notice in May. Now, but as for April, if you believe that issuing a notice to pay or vacate will prompt a payment from the tenant or will prompt communication from the tenant that would allow you to engage in some type of dialogue that will lead to a payment agreement, then go ahead and send that. But remember, the goal in sending it right now is to generate revenue. It's not to preserve your ability to evict. We'll worry about that as we get closer to the court opening up to eviction filings. So even if you decide to only send one in April if you think it will generate some money. Either way, send another one in May to get you ready potentially to file an eviction in June. So that's it for today, short and sweet. I hope you're enjoying these videos. I hope you're staying well. It's really too early to tell how this COVID-19 thing is going to play out, but there is reason for some cautious optimism. It looks like some of the early projections are now being walked back a bit. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to be clamoring for the shutdown to end or anything like that. We've still got a ways to go. And as Governor Beshear says, we need to stay diligent and vigilant in our social distancing and certainly on our properties, make sure that we're urging social distancing, make sure that we're requiring that of our employees, make sure that in our common areas that we're requiring that, make sure that our disinfectant protocols are still being followed and still being ramped up. So all the things that we've been doing, we need to continue doing. I'll probably have a video out later about what to do if you have a resident who's been exposed or has tested positive for COVID-19. I've already hit that before, but that's going to happen more and more. Okay, if you haven't experienced that yet, you're going to. So I'll probably hit that in a later video. But I've already given some suggestions on that, so I won't reiterate those today. But for today, give the April notice to pay or vacate if you think it'll get you some money. And either way, whether you give it or not, give another one in May. So that's all I've got for today. If you need help implementing any of this or just want to talk through it, make sure you reach out to your friendly neighborhood attorney. You can reach me at smarshall@tripleslaw.com. That looks like smarshall@tripleslaw.com, or on my cell phone. Hope you guys are doing well, staying healthy. Take care, and we'll talk soon.